Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Makeup is Hard podcast. I'm your host, Weenie, and welcome to the very first episode of the Makeup is Hard podcast, where I find stories from anonymous sources on how makeup, hair, costume, and pretty much any industry related job is hard. I got into makeup 15 years ago. I've been a makeup artist in the film industry. I was a department head for 10 years, and then I transitioned over into the television industry. And I was there for 5, and it was very difficult. Very difficult. The job in general, being a makeup artist, is hard. Um, I did a little bit of hair. I've done hair apprenticeships where I stepped away from the industry and went behind the chair. And that has its own challenges. As I left the industry due to health reasons, I wanted to give back in the form of letting people know that are incoming into this industry in any capacity, hair, makeup, wardrobe, special effects, whatever it is, that it's not always sunshine and rainbows. We love the job. We keep going because we love the job, but there are some darker aspects to it. So I am here to tell your stories. If you were wondering what is on my face, this is for my other YouTube channel. If you are interested in gaming and makeup design in video game format and amazing stories, highly recommend you go check that out on WeenieTube. I'll leave all of the links in the description if you are curious. But without further ado, let's get going. Today's episode is going to be kind of bullying forward. I was bullied on set when I kind of entered the TV industry because I had to go from running my own department to being a part of a massive team where I was kind of bottom ranks. And I did experience some bullying, some very extensive bullying. So figured that that would be a great place to start. All of these stories are sourced from the internet. No names will be named. And if you want to submit a story that resonated with you or happened to you and you want to tell people, and if you want to share your story, we have our own subreddit, the Makeup is Hard podcast, r/Makeup is Hard podcast, where you can anonymously post things that you wish you would have known when you kind of gotten into the industry on how the job is hard sometimes. So go check it out. It's a wonderful community. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? Story number 1. I would like to hear some ideas on how we stop toxicity in the hair and makeup department. I could almost bet everyone here has a story about a time that they were treated badly at work by a fellow artist or department head or key. I've been day playing a few months now, and I hear stories from friends of things they've gone through on set and in the trailer. It's sad to hear how abusive, manipulative, and toxic our union members can be to one another. Sometimes we hear about being, quote, serial offenders and our department heads who hold the hiring power. Most people are afraid to speak up about these situations. I know none of us are perfect and we have issues at times with one another, but there are some behaviors that are so malicious it's sick. I want to speak out in hopes we can find a safe way for people to come forward with their experiences that cross the line and what we can do to change it. That is what I hope that this podcast will bring to you. A community where we can come together and safely tell our stories. So let's dive into the comments. Well, before we dive into the comments, I just want to take a second and speak to my experience with this. It is a little bit of a problem. I worked in television and in film. Film, it wasn't really a problem because most of the time, if not all of the time, I was running the department and I didn't really have that issue. Like, yeah, you have issues where people don't like you, just as a boss, or they think that you said something or, something was unfair that they didn't agree with. Like, we all have those struggles. But all in all, like, my departments were pretty drama free. But for some reason, when I went into the TV industry, I became the young person on set. I wasn't young. I had been doing what I was doing for 11 years at that point. I knew how to conduct myself in a professional way. I was an adult. I knew how to do it, but there are so many different personalities in the television industry that it's kind of something that you really, really, really have to navigate. I had or have rather, bachelor's degree in psychology, and I was going to study therapy. So I do have a grasp on boundaries and being able to take a step back and being able to listen to what the person needs. That got me actually pretty far. I feel like I wouldn't have had the experiences that I had and that I was given if I wasn't able to kind of step back, let someone take the lead and show me exactly how they wanted something done. It's a decent quality to have, to be able to become a little bit of an observer. Even still, I got bullied a lot. I want to say I got hazed pretty bad by people who were threatened by me. People will try to dim your light, which is terrible. Terrible. But they will. They will. You kind of have to just shine bright like a diamond and keep it pushing. But that's just my experience. But let's get into these comments. I have been treated very horribly by a department head that was criticizing everything that I did. I was the key hair, and everything I did was never right. Even though I had the season 1 images of the actor and did exactly the same hairstyles. The abuse didn't stop there. I never had any help. She would hire extra hands for makeup, but never give me extra hands to help me with the actors. I ultimately quit before the show ended. The abuse was enough. That's hard. That's really hard because on a TV show, movies are different. Movies are you're with people for up to 3 months ish. If it's a big movie like a union major, it could be like 6 months, but it's TV shows go for 8 months. And if you're stuck in a little bit of an abusive relationship where, somebody doesn't like you for XYZ reason, it's extremely difficult to work 15, 16 hours a day with that person day in and day out. It's hard. It is hard. It sucks. Sometimes it really, really sucks because you have to be able to juggle different personalities. Let's see. Some other comments. After coming back during the pandemic, I made a conscious choice of what I would and would no longer accept as treatment. When I was treated poorly, I collect my thoughts on the situation and address it politely yet firmly, and as soon as it was appropriate. That's really important too. Like, timing is key. No has been a very valuable word. There's far too much work to go around to deal with personalities of that nature any longer. If they get a reputation for being a horrible leader, good luck staffing your project right now. It's a good point. It's a good point. The people with people talk. People talk. If you treat your staff poorly, and there's enough work to go around, people will just, oh, I'm booked, and they won't be, just to avoid working with you. Another comment. This all takes a big cultural shift. As a person who was socialized at male, there are many things I don't understand about some of the social patterns that happen in our union. I just say this as an example of how deeply rooted some of this may be. Sometimes folks who are toxic in this way may not realize that they are part of the problem. Some of the major shifts I see as necessary. Apologies and gratitude need to be expressed frequently and easily. Direct communication, both as critique and when given directions, can be taught in a gentle and constructive way that isn't about a person or their artistry. Nonviolent communication and conflict resolution workshops can be taught, and they are, and possibly even also be required for department heads and keys in the same way sexual harassment training is also. Fantastic idea. Love this idea. Because the problem is like in the union, for example, for hair and makeup artists, like There are training seminars for bullying, but a really big problem is that, the bullies don't see themselves of like what they're doing as a problem. So they're not going to those workshops. It's the people that have been on the receiving end of their treatment that are going to these workshops that are trying to prevent the problem from being as pervasive as it is. So it is a massive cultural shift. It's absolutely a massive cultural shift. Another comment. It's much like an abusive family cycle. So many department heads have been taught by their predecessors that these, quote, things, rules, procedures matter, whatever the case may be. And no one knows why things are done a certain way. It's just the way it's always been. Some of it is a plain and simple power trip, and it's belittling and abusive. Break the cycle. Be the department head that solves the problems, not creating bullshit. We've all been there. Let's just make it a healthy, creative atmosphere where all input is welcomed. And remember, Regina George got hit by a bus at the end of Mean Girls and no one cared. That's funny. This is another story related to this comment. This is a long comment. 1,000%. I have spent 13 years working in many types of therapies to break cycles of dysfunction in my family for myself and to benefit my children. I was not prepared to see patterns so obvious at work. Yeah, neither was I. My last project had a male lead who had been known for racial slurs and slanders of Jewish people in Hollywood. His first 2 minutes in my chair, I knew his obnoxious, ignorant views on mask, slavery, the Holocaust, and something about a donkey. But immediately I checked out, didn't care if his head fell off or even had hair. And the makeup artist went to the other extreme, tap dancing around him, offering any and everything and just doing all she could to make him happy and be the favorite. She's awesome and a great friend, so I knew instantly we were both so triggered by his behavior. That is absolutely insane to even be exposed to, let alone expected to entertain as part of my job. He's extreme, but it's rampant in our industry. I wish my trauma response was to punch him and tell him money doesn't make you intelligent, so shut up and go act. But I said nothing, which for me, I'm actually proud of. It's hard. Sometimes we've had, that can be a whole nother episode of difficult talent, difficult clients in your chair. Sometimes they don't always agree with you, morally, religiously, politically, whatever it is. Actors are difficult because they have carte blanche as to pretty much acting however they want on set, and you kind of just have to go with it. You can't just be offended because then you'll be labeled as the problem. It can get really bad sometimes. It really can. I love this discussion because it's an unfortunate and common issue in the entire industry. I think all members should get very comfortable with knowing who to turn to, whether it be in human resources on a production, their union reps, and or shop stewards to document any and all inappropriate or abusive behavior. Reporting such is commonplace in any other work environment without fear of retribution. If conversations with questionable peers need to be had, make sure you have witnesses or mediation available who can affirm if needed in an escalated situation. Very true. I shouldn't have to mention how illegal some of the actions taken that I've heard of are, and I highly doubt a production wants to deal with a lawsuit within a department. Anyone in a position of power in any department should act accordingly and take care of their teams. We may work in a business with gray areas, but abuse in any form isn't tolerable, and unless we draw the line, it will continue to be a standard. That is my hopes, wants, and dreams for this podcast. For industry professionals to have a space to vent, have accountability be taken, because if more people talk about it, more people are going to understand that it is not okay. And we all know how the internet is. They're going to call you out if you're full of shit. It's just the fact of the matter. Bullying is hard. Like, I'll insert my story. Won't go into details because it's not about going into too many details on this channel. But I was being bullied, tattled on, hazed on a TV show, and I would go home crying. Oh my God. All of the time. All of the time. My boss, one of them, was like, well, just tell her to go off. And I'm like, I can't do that. She's 70. She's up there in age. And me being the millennial that I am just assuming that because you have been doing this longer than I have, you are the adult in the room, and because of that, I'm just going to assume that you know what you're talking about. I'm the new kid on the block. How am I supposed to know? And because of that, a lot of things that I would never let slide, in real life, I let slide. And because of that, I got really sick, really sick. Your body, if you're going through that much stress on a daily basis, your body's going to tell you, and it's not going to last forever when you're in that kind of a situation. It's really important to have a sounding board of people being trying. I wish I had something like this when I was going through something like that, because then I would have known that no, this isn't normal. This isn't normal behavior, and I would have been able to up and leave. But my situation was a little bit unique because I kind of got into the industry on like a grand scale when the industry was kind of slowing down work-wise. So it was a little bit different for me. I felt like I had to stay because not everyone was getting work, and I felt like I was in a unique privileged position. So bullying is definitely a problem though in the industry. If you resonate with that in any capacity, whether it be a special effects shop, whether it be in the hair salon, whether it be on set, this is a forum for anybody industry related. And even if you're not in the industry, like, bullying is just not acceptable. It's not acceptable behavior. So this next story is very, very, very common. And what a lot of people, even me, I was working in the film industry for 10 years, and independent films are different from union sets. Most of the time, especially if you get good producers, you're wrapping on time. But once you get into the union world, a lot of liberties are taken with scheduling. Here's an example. 17-hour workday on a Saturday. And that's just when I was cut. Not sure how long my brothers and sisters worked yet. Got the prelim for Monday, and it was for 3:30 in the morning. I cried when I saw that. I have a 2-year-old at home that I haven't seen in 2 days. When production was questioned about this, and after attempting to read the insanely difficult contract, we were told that there's no weekend turnaround. This kind of treatment is inhumane, unsafe, and unacceptable. I hope a strike is authorized. Stories from 2021. We have had a lot happen in the industry since then. And yes, we did go on strike. A lot of people were talking about the abuses that happen during things called Fridays, where, yeah, you get Saturday off. You get Saturday and Sunday off when you work in the industry. However, you will work so late on Friday that you will not get home until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, and then you're not waking up until noon-ish, and then there goes half your weekend. And then you have to go to bed on Sunday at like 4 or 5 p.m. for what, a 3:30 in the morning call time? It's crazy. Your body doesn't have time to reset in that amount of time. And Fridays are extremely commonplace. Extremely commonplace. You will be working 14, 15, 16, sometimes 17-hour days, especially when you consider commuting. Yeah, it's really, really, really hard. Let's get into some of these comments, shall we? There used to be a 52-hour turnaround, and then there was a 48-hour turnaround. But that all went by the wayside because our union gave it up. And yes, this is inhumane. I am so glad I retired. I couldn't do it anymore. Once upon a time, they had weekends, but contract negotiations have since conceded on those hard lines, and we no longer have them. Weekend turnaround went away a long time ago. I was told as long as you get 10 hours off, that is enough. Sorry for us all. I just did a 6-day, 90-hour week. This is an ongoing issue and exactly what gave me PTSD, and I had to leave the industry because it affected my mental health. I retired early because of it. The hours are just one huge problem. The locations, exteriors, overnights, disregard, and disrespect are another. No way to live when we are on our deathbeds. We don't say, I wish I worked more, or I wish I had more money. What we do say is, I wish I had more time, and I wish I spent it with my family. Get out after you get your points for a pension. It comes around fast. Trust me, that's what I did. Enjoy your life. We don't know how much time we have, and don't assume you or anyone you love has time. Good luck. P.S. I still have panic attacks over this job. I'm working on it. Out of the industry for 2 years. It takes time to get over the stress it caused me. By the way, people are afraid to tell the truth because they won't work. I have no skin in the game anymore. Yeah. That is the big thing. A lot of people won't speak out for fear of losing their job or losing the ability to get hired again. And I mean, I can empathize with that 100%, but I am no longer in it. I want to be the change I wish I had for the future generation. So hold on tight, because here we go. This next story is not related to the film industry, but can be attributed to the film industry because every workplace has these issues. So let's get into it, shall we? I'll never forget the day my bully fired me. I walked into her office and saw the woman who did HR off to the side of her desk. The bully told me to sit. I said, clearly, I no longer work for you, so I'd much prefer to stand. I don't remember much beyond that except the look on her face when I took the envelope and told her she was nothing but a bully. The look of shock followed her quickly, but her anger was palpable. She walked me to my office to supervise me getting my things, and then in front of my staff, walked me out the door. It was the first thing in the morning on January 9th. I was treated like a criminal, but in some ways, it was better than the abuse I had taken for months at the hand of this incredibly insecure, inept, narcissistic leader. She maligned me to my coworkers, held on to information I needed to do my job, excluded me from meetings I needed to attend to do my job, took work away, constantly changed the rules, micromanaged and belittled and screamed at me, physically shoved me, and subsequently continues to fail upwards. It's a weird world. You can get bullied. The bully gets paid $250,000 a year to keep on keeping on. You blow the whistle and you become the persona non grata with many of your industry peers, and the bully gets invited to guest lecture, write op-eds, speak on panels, win awards, on and on. It's an upside down world. The reason? Well, you're supposed to just suck it up, buttercup. Go with the flow. Win a few, lose a few, and keep the losses to yourself. Stiff upper lip, you old girl. And definitely don't suggest you weren't the problem. Don't suggest that there is a massive shortage of good leadership in a sector that is meant to change the world. Yep, I broke the cardinal rule of working in the social impact sector. I spoke the truth. I shared my lived experience. I was supposed to sweep it all under the rug. Some really bad and telltale signs that someone is trying to manipulate you. Constantly changing work guidelines, establishing impossible deadlines that will set up the individual to fail, withholding necessary information or purposefully giving the wrong information, making jokes that are obviously offensive by spoken word or email, intruding on a person's privacy by pestering, spying, or stalking. All of that happened to me. All of it. It sucked. It sucked. I'm going to end today's first episode with examples on how it should be done. As we prepare to return to work, let's take a moment to examine what it means to be a department head or key. This is for the television industry. Or, I mean, it can be applied to good management in general. I can't name a makeup artist or a hairstylist who hasn't had a bad experience with a department head. Honestly, a lot of these stories border on abuse, and too many cross the line. Being head of department does not mean I can do whatever I want, or at least it shouldn't. And being a key or an additional shouldn't mean getting left out into the cold with no breaks for hours on end, or being last to wrap every day while your boss goes home and stays on the clock, or getting generally screwed at every turn. We've all been there. It's not fun and it's not fair. A department head should be a leader and a protector of the team. Of course, the first job of a department head is to plan and execute the vision of the director and their creatives. But while doing that, a department head should be protecting their team and setting them up to do their best. You are only as good as your team. I don't care who you are or what your IMDb says. Our jobs are grueling. We work insane hours day after day. Who hasn't felt like death warmed over after a few months of full tilt production mania? It's hard enough. Don't make it harder for yourself or your team. If these strikes have taught us anything, it's that the higher ups don't care about us. We are disposable. As a department head, it is your responsibility to protect your team and yourself because nobody else will. Trade off who leaves early. Give people the day off when they need it. Work should not come before life. Stop missing weddings and family events. It's not worth it. Nobody has ever said, I wished I worked more on their deathbed. When reaching out to additionals, give them all of the information. When people are day playing regularly, they're trying to juggle so much. Other shows, with everything that's involved, with short turnarounds, repacking kits, schlepping kits, getting no info, not to mention childcare, self-care, and life. If you're looking for additionals for a split or a night shoot, tell them. If it's a distant location where people might be trapped, if they don't self-report, tell them. If they're just covering set and don't need a whole kit, tell them. Give them all of the info or don't be annoyed if they complain on the day. Being hired as a makeup or hair department head is not being hired as master of the universe. Share information. Have the hard conversations with your team members if they're doing something you don't like. Give people second chances. We're all artists and we all bring something unique to the table. Be kind, communicate, and treat your team the way that you would want to be treated when you're not in charge. Excellent advice. Excellent advice. When I was a department head, I was a department head for 10 years when I worked in film. And I worked so hard to make sure everyone had correct information. I remember one time one person was like, you didn't tell me we were going to be in a forest. Yeah, no, I sure as heck did. I did. Because who wants to be surprised when they go to work? Not me. Not me. Never. Never. I wouldn't want to do that to somebody else. It's a hard job, but I'm here to tell your stories. I'm so glad that you have spent this time with me. I'm so glad to be starting this new journey in my career. Again, if you want to share a story, we have our own subreddit. Here, hold on. Let me click on it. There it is. There it is. You can find us on all of these socials. All of the links will be down below. Link to this makeup look if you are at all curious about video game and makeup design all rolled into one, and great stories that should be on TV. It's really cool. I'm very excited about it. But if you want to submit a story and have the possibility to be featured on air, there's the Reddit. There's the subreddit right there. Right there. You should subscribe so that all of our stories can be heard and read completely anonymous. And we are all here to share accountability with one another and show the future generation while our job is amazing and incredible and so exciting and we love it so much. It can be hard. There are dark aspects to it, and we are here to shine a light for the future generation. So with that, my name is Weenie. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe.